All right, welcome back. Welcome back to another episode of the Top of Off Cricket Podcast. I am your host, Kevin Henry, and with me, I want to get my boy Sammy tonight because I want to taking up with family business. So, family comes first, gotta handle that. But, Sam, what an enthralling day's cricket today. I think
Oh,
while I expected West Indies to bowl good, I didn't expect them to bowl this well. What are
mhm.
your thoughts on the bowling performance?
Wow. I laugh at the question because when I think of the bowling performance, I cannot get out of my mind the catching or the drop catches.
Yeah.
So let's just talk about the bowling. Um, I couldn't ask for anything better. In fact, let me step back for a bit. We had a consensus here a few nights ago in that we wanted West Indies to bowl first, right? And our logic behind it was simply that look, um, Australia, the world knows Australia has some batting challenges at the top order.
Yeah.
Good. One can put a question mark and argue because we've been hearing some chatter about West Indies' bowling attack. There is no Roach in the side. There is a question about Shamar Joseph and whether he's ready, for Test cricket, given his lack of overs on his legs, put it that way, right? But with all of that, I think we all agreed that West Indies, given the chance, yes, should bowl first. So this morning when Australia won the toss and they decided to bat, I was like, huh? And then our captain Chase goes up there and says, well, if he had won the toss, he too would have batted. And I'm like, why? But again, I am not an expert, right? I'm
Yeah.
not an expert on cricket. I'm just a mere fan. I'm still learning the game essentially, right? So I said, okay, all right. It is the case that from what they were seeing on the pitch, it's partly going to, be terrible for batting day
No.
4, day 5,
Yeah.
right? Assuming we get there, right? But still, I was happy that we bowled first, and our boys came out and did extremely well.
Look, I tell you what. I was thinking the same because you asked me the question earlier, about winning the toss and I thought even before I saw what happened, I or when I by the time the live feed came in because ESPN
Mhm.
they didn't start at the toss live. They only went in, they started
Mhm.
at
Right.
a quarter till. But I
Yeah.
thought that Ross and Chase would have been thinking along the same lines of if we had won the toss, we would have
Mhm.
batted also. I think he was thinking that, making first use of the pitch in terms of batting,
Mhm.
because the pitch deteriorates, and gets a little bit
Correct.
worse
Over the days.
over
Yeah.
the days.
Mhm.
But
Right.
I thought Shamar Joseph put all of that to rest with that bowling
Mhm.
performance, right? It was like saying,
Mhm.
Skipper, this would have been the right choice.
Exactly.
He
Yep.
absolutely broke the back of the Australian batting today. It seemed like
Most definitely.
there was an event every over, every couple of balls, there was an event. Something happened, you know, and it
Right.
took me
Yep.
as I'm
Yep.
watching. It took me back to you know mid early 90s, 80s when West Indies are bowling and there's always an event, right?
Mhm.
Batsmen are being forced to do something, not necessarily getting out, but they're constantly under
Right.
pressure.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
it was so refreshing to see
Mhm.
that type of sustained attacking bowling today. right? And I think the Australians, that is what, caught them a little bit unawares, because I personally think they probably looked at the bowling, and they probably went, well, Shamar is probably a little rusty. Alzari Joseph is you can't necessarily count on him all the time. Jaden Seals, we're gonna have to contend with Jaden Seals, so we're gonna take our chances. That's just how I viewed it. And hell, kudos to Shamar. Ian Healy had some things to say today, about, hey, you need to come up, you need to show up, because for the past year you've been wherever. I don't know which cricket he's been watching. If he's basing Shamar on the white ball cricket that he's been seeing, I've been watching Shamar Joseph in red ball cricket, and I know he has shown some things. A fight against South Africa, when he played against Bangladesh, he was good. 5-6 catches dropped, So Shamar just said, "Ian Healy, shut up." Shut up.
Yeah. I think with Shamar, it's one of those things where he's, once he's having fun, enjoying himself, I recall at Sabina Park when we were playing Bangladesh, and he had some drop catches there too, right?
I think he had about 4 or 5 in that game.
Which we need to,
Yeah.
I don't remember exactly how many, but I just recall it's the first time I just saw him and he just dropped.
Yeah.
And he just has to get exhausted. And it's like, wow, because he's a guy, come what may, he just smiles and he just goes back to the top of his mark.
Gets out
and goes again and goes, But at that one point in time, I could recall him but today he was just having fun. He just put all our fears to rest, I would say.
Yeah, all questions were answered today. All questions were answered.
Yeah. So
is he ready?
Happy about that. Yeah.
Brandon King debuted. Long awaited. People been calling for Brandon King in the West Indies team for a long time. Inauspicious start.
Yep.
Tough start.
Yep.
Right? Yep. You thought did you think it was a matter of nerves?
That's the biggest stage of cricket in my world. Test cricket is still the biggest stage, right? And to play for the Frank Worrell Trophy, that's the ultimate. I mean, you and I, 90s, Australia versus the West Indies, that was it for us.
Yeah.
We still feeling the pain 30 years after.
Still feeling the pain.
With that Frank Worrell thing, right? So for Brandon King to be playing in this series, getting his test cap today was a big deal for him and a big deal for us too, because it's like a new era. We're hopeful.
Yeah.
Some may call us crazy, like, wait, y'all expect West Indies to, at a minimum, let's say, draw this series? You expect that to happen? Yeah, if not win it, draw it. Yeah, serious about that. So, it's within that context, it's like, okay. Because remember now, Brandon King should have been in Australia 23-24, right?
Yeah, he was actually approached to play.
No. Correct. And he said no, he wanted to focus on the white ball, the T20, because the World Cup was coming up and so on. I don't think I've forgiven him for that, and I don't fully understand the reasons why, but I'm glad. All right, good. He's here now, and so on. Regarding the drop catches, here's my thing. Jaiswal dropped 4 at Leeds, right?
Something like that. Was
it 4 last week? Yeah, I think there was some record or something.
That was 2 days ago.
Right? So, King wasn't that bad. And for your first match, we can give you a black,
Here's what I think about though. Here's what I think about though. I said it to Stamen today, right? I said it didn't cost us anything. The catches that he dropped didn't cost us anything sufficient, right? It's not like anybody that he dropped went on to make a significant amount of runs, right? And then you back and you look at it like Courtney Brown when he dropped Steve Waugh, And Steve Waugh went on to make a next 160 something runs. Right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
good
Yeah.
on that aspect, good on it, right? Catches win matches. These things do happen.
Right.
I'm willing to give Brandon a pass because it didn't cost us anything, right?
Right.
But,
Agreed on that.
But I got a
He
question.
didn't
He
didn't drop head. Head wasn't.
No, head wasn't dropped. Head wasn't dropped.
Kawaja and
yeah. He dropped Cam Green, I think Alex Carey, and we name. Is it Pat Cummins? I think it was. I think it's Pat Cummins. Yeah.
Later down,
later down. Yeah, right. he dropped Pat Cummins. But I got a question for you, right? If Brandon goes ahead, and let me say he cracked 80, all's forgiven.
but there's a reason why I brought up Jaiswal, because remember Jaiswal put on 100 cramps and all manner of things.
Yeah.
So in a way it's like, okay, because we could say for each one of those drop catches you say you put a 30 odd. So yeah.
I think the difference between the two is Jaiswal's catches that were dropped cost India the game, right? Cost India the game.
There you go.
And they were in the second innings.
Yep.
For West Indies. This happened early out in the day. We still went ahead and wrapped things up quite quickly. And
correct.
I still think we're in a comfortable position. I don't like the way how we lost the first 2 wickets, right? I'm not sure what cracked Braffett, what kind of, there was no intention in that shot. What were you really doing, right? What were you trying to accomplish?
But let me ask you, Kevin, you did say to me that he was too deep in his crease. I haven't had a chance to look back at
Not necessarily deep in his crease.
He
didn't go anywhere.
Or he didn't go forward.
Right, he didn't go anywhere.
Okay, all right, fine.
Right? The feet were together. And he just stood there and just dangled his bat in front of him. Like, what are you really
like a defensive...
like a real uncertain defensive prod.
And that was against Stark, was it, right?
Yeah, it was against Stark. Stark got the first 2 wickets.
Because I recall Brandon King playing a similar, like a defensive shot then. And I was like, well, is this what Brathwaite was trying to do? I don't know. I need to check it back. But when I saw it, I don't know that I was that upset with him. But again, I said, I need to speak with someone more technically inclined in the ways of batting to help me out here in terms of Brathwaite. Because I thought, maybe he's just trying a defensive thing and it was just too good a ball. And it just went off to
listen.
To slip.
No, there's no discounting it was a good ball, right? Do I think he could have
still play?
He could have played a better shot or execute a better defensive shot? Yes. He could have gotten forward. And all he would have done is prod it back down the pitch. End the story. He just stood there.
So here's another question. If he had indeed got a little more forward and the ball did take the edge and go behind the wicket, is it the case therefore by going forward the angle would have been a little more different? They'd probably gone more towards gully and not in the air. I don't know.
There's a possibility, but if you get forward and you get forward and you cover the line, you understand? More than likely,
then it would just straight back down.
Yes, the ball goes anywhere between cover and mid off, right?
Right.
He didn't do any of that.
Yeah.
John Campbell was leaving the ball well, and then he just, I don't know what that was. Just stuck your bat out there, and it just like you're dangling something. And what? It's like I'm thinking, like, what did he think could come good from that? What good could come from that? If you notice how Travis Head was playing, anything that he was going at outside there, he was going hard. It was going to take some catching. That is the type of player that John Campbell is. He is known for going after the ball. Since when you were just dangling your butt out there, it was a literal dangle. There was no intention. You know, it wasn't like, okay, I'm out here, I'm looking to get 4, or I'm looking to just push the ball through the covers. The bat ended up in a weird type of angle. And
so was he between mines maybe or something?
When I think of it, I think he got caught in, I shouldn't have been playing at this. Because I believe in the ball. Exactly. So now you were just caught in no man's land. I hold no problems with the Casey Carty dismissal.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, when you watch Casey Carty,
that one was painful.
Yeah.
That one was painful because he was going good and I was hopeful, you know.
He was batting well.
I was really hopeful, man. Yeah.
That 20, right? Could very well end up being very important in the context of the game or this first innings.
Yeah.
You understand? He was batting well. If I was Casey Carty, yes, you're going to be upset you got out. But when you sit down, you calm yourself down. You've got to think to yourself, you know what? I got a good dog.
Right.
When you saw Warrican came out there tonight, what were you thinking?
Well, I mean, listen, look, we know, okay, fine, he's coming out as night watchman. I think what was more interesting for me is after he got out, and then Roston Chase comes out. Maybe Roston Chase should have come out from the jump, you know. Play, you know, you're the captain, lead from the front. It's your home ground. You're not in some foreign land or something. It's your home ground. You know it better than a lot of people in the team.
Yeah.
So he should have gone out, right? So, well, look, we can't change it. I got another concern about Warrican, but we could. My question to you about Warrican is this: should Warrican have been bowled earlier? Like, for example, just after lunch. Why is it we had Chase bowling? Why not Warrican? I understand that the concern is the left-handed thing, and I don't know, on Travis Head. Is that how do you see that from a technical perspective?
That could have been the reasoning behind it. But what I would have done, I wouldn't have bowled Graves after lunch. I would have bowled either Shamar Joseph or Jaden Seals at least four or 5 overs. Because what that did, when you didn't capitalize on that moment, what that did was you relieved some of the pressure.
There you go.
Right?
Yeah.
You allowed Travis Head and Usman Khawaja to get a bit of momentum, put together a nice little partnership.
Yeah.
You know, when you should have been looking to put your foot on the neck. Right? That's what. So I would have came out with either, even if I didn't want to, because Shamar, I think, bowled 8 overs before lunch. You know.
Yeah, think about that. Yeah, that sounds about right.
You going for the juggler, right? You're going for the juggler at this point. You have them on the ropes. You go for the juggler. Now, things still ended up working out well. But I would have gone. I wouldn't have necessarily gone for Warrican. I don't fault Chase for not going with Warrican because Travis Head could have probably gone on a rampage, right? He is known for that. But the other decision I would have made was I would have gone with either Shamar or Jaden Seals because I would have been looking to cut this short. You don't want this innings to extend no longer than you need it to, right?
Correct. Yeah. No, I agree with that. I just felt like, because in my mind I'm thinking, get your best bowlers out after lunch. I mean, before you go to lunch and after lunch are periods when
Yeah.
wickets can fall.
Yeah.
Right? And if we're talking about football, goals can be scored,
Goals can be scored.
you know,
Yeah.
early or just before the,
Yeah.
the thing. So I felt, they could have been better there in terms of decision making. No doubt.
Growing pains,
Yeah.
growing pains, growing pains. At the end of the day, it still worked out well. 180. I still think
Yeah.
we can get between 250 and 275 tomorrow. I think that would be sufficient enough to put the Australians under some pressure, right? I think we're good enough for that. All it takes is a bit of smart batting. I think the Demons. I think the pitch will play a little bit more calmer tomorrow. I think it'll be a better
Right.
a better place, a better wicket to bat on tomorrow. So that is not such a bad thing, right? It's just up to our batsmen to understand the moments and just look to play smart. You don't have to do anything outrageous.
I tell you, I really, for as short as it was, it still seemed like a whole session to me. Carty and King.
Yeah.
And did you see Sammy's roles? Remember that in the last couple of weeks, it's all about Sammy's roles.
Yeah.
Did you see the roles come to light this afternoon?
Yeah. Casey Carty understood. He knows exactly what he has to do, and he was batting according to that, right? Brandon King came out, and he was batting according to that.
Yep. At one time, King was like close to a run a ball almost.
Yeah.
And in fact, when you look at the strike rates, Carty is like 50, King is 74.19. You see? And I tell you, I just wished, that. But here's the thing, though. Chase can play that Carty role, I do believe.
Yeah.
I still have in my head when he was here at Sabina playing the South Africans last year, the T20, and the people in the stands. It can get in the stands. They were calling him test player. Come on, test player. So I think this partnership here tomorrow
is vital.
Within the first hour, we will know, gotta get a good idea as to how things could pan out. And then of course we have Shea Hope to come. Shea Hope, he's at home. Come on now, we gotta bring something.
Yeah, you gotta bring something.
So I'm hopeful. I don't want to put a number on it. I'll just let your number stand.
I go in brave. I go in between 250 and 275. I think anything within there, it puts the Australians under pressure, right? And it gives us a chance to control the game better, and not have this ebb and flow, because what I do think it's the longer we bat, the better our chances are of winning. The Australians are going to want to shorten this game. You understand? They're going to come out looking to shorten this game because they know their batting is a bit suspect. So they're not going to want to play the long game. West Indies have got to lengthen this game, meaning try to bat most of tomorrow. They have the capability of doing it. You understand?
Yeah.
I think if we bat at least 2.5 sessions tomorrow, that is sufficient enough.
What lead do you think? I know some folks would laugh at this, but these are questions I think we need to consider. What lead do you think would be sufficient to get us to win this match?
In terms
of the minimum amount.
A minimum chasing score in the second innings?
No. The lead, sorry. Let me rephrase that. My apologies. Lead in our first innings. What lead do we need to get to put us in a position to win?
90. I think a 90-run lead.
In my head is 100, which is close, but right.
Yeah. I think a 90-run lead is sufficient enough to put the Aussies on the pressure. Obviously, we would like a whole lot more, right? But
of course.
Given how the track is playing, I think 90, 100, it puts pressure on the Australians.
Yeah.
What's the number you would like to chase to win? Can we bat in fourth?
Oof, boy. 200, somewhere thereabouts. I don't want anything. I said 250, but really 200 would make me comfortable. Anything beyond that would be tight, I would say.
I am looking at anything between 180 and 200. I think that's a comfortable region for us. You understand?
Yeah.
Like I said, you don't want the Australians to control the game. You don't want them to control any parts of the game. So West Indies have got to take control tomorrow in terms of batting. And then when the Aussies come out again, they've got to repeat what they did this morning.
Right.
Or for a greater part of the day.
Yeah. Because again, based on what they've said about the pitch, I guess we're looking at cracks developing. I don't know. We have Nathan Lyons.
Yeah.
And you know how well we bat spin, right? So yeah, you're right. Anything over 200 to chase could be.
You don't want to give Mitchell Starc, Pat Cummins, Josh Hazelwood, and Nathan Lyon anything that they feel comfortable with. You understand? You don't want to give them anything that they don't feel comfortable with. Because you notice what Starc did today. He was, from the moment he came out there, he was hunted. You understand? At no point in time he was, okay, let me settle in, he was hunting. And that is the mentality that Shamar had this morning. You understand? So what both of them did was set the tone for the series. We are hunting. You understand me? What are your thoughts on Jaden Seals coming off the field with the ball? Shamar was close in tow. I got to get your thoughts on that.
Well, I saw the video you shared. I'm not sure how that all worked out. Was he pulling Shamar Joseph to come along with him, and they share the walk off? It seemed as if he was saying, "Yeah, man, come, let's share this."
It seemed like a shared moment,
Apparently,
right? It seemed like a shared moment. Because I did see, I think it was Roston Chase also was kind of nudging Shamar ahead, right?
Right.
Because
I don't know.
Because you were of the opinion that Shamar should have taken the ball.
Right. So here's my thing. So it's either one or two things. Either the captain should have gotten involved and given the ball to Shamar, or Jaden Seals. If you recall down in the Gabo, when Shamar took off his hat and did that, that gesticulate,
Yeah.
If I were Jaden Seals, I would have done something like that and give him the ball and let him walk off.
What's your reasoning behind that?
And why? Look, everyone knows who was the best bowler today, right? Hands down. No. When we look, we could say, all right, two of the catches that were dropped off his bowling, he ended up getting those wickets, right? Kawaja being one of them. I think it's Kawaja and Green eventually got, right?
Yes.
Shamar Joseph eventually got right. But the two other instances, I don't think he got those wickets, right? So If we say, okay, he takes those, that's 6, right? On top of that, Shamar would have gotten the batters in
the top order,
the top order essentially, right? Not to say I do recognize that the Australian bowling lineup can give you a little something with the bat, right? But the point is, Shamar Joseph took away the frontline bowlers. Greaves got Travis Head, right? Yeah, again, not to take away what Seals did, but clearly Joseph was the man of the day. And if I were Seals, I would have given him the ball. Because guess what? The record books would still reflect that Seals got a 5-4. Yeah. Which brings us to the other point. Like when you see old men in the rum shop arguing about cricket, right? Whatever you want to think about that scene, these are the things I suspect those men talk about. Yeah. They go beyond the stats. So yes, you got 5. But Manga said, no, what Ambrose got X person and Y person, or his economy rate was 1.9 or something like that. So yeah, for me, I would have done it different, but not to take away anything from Seals.
As we just said, 2 things can be true, right? Had Jaden Seals said, look, Shamar, it was because of the pressure that you exerted. It was because you broke the back of the Australian batting. I was able to pick up this 5. Here's the ball. You lead us off. I could live with that. You understand? Yeah. I could also live with both as they did, walking off with the both of them, right? And I could also live with Jaden Seals leading them off. You understand me? At the end of the day, we understand and we know what happened there today.
What happened?
You understand? Yeah. We know what happened there today. And what we saw, even though Shamar took 7 for 60 odd and won West Indies that game at the Gabba, I thought today was the best he has bowled in his 9 Test career. Today was the best he has bowled. At the Gabba, he gave away a lot of boundaries. In that 2-match series alone, there was a lot of boundaries hit off of him. There weren't that many boundaries hit off of him today. His lines and lengths were impeccable. And that's what, when we started up at the top of the show, when I said, every time he bowled, almost every over, there seems to be something happening. The ball was jumping.
It keeps you locked in.
Yeah. Right. The bat was being beaten. People were being dropped. People were being caught. Something was happening. And that is the type of cricket that West Indians like to see. Right? So, other than that, when you looked in the crowd today, what did you make of this? What did you make of the crowd? I know you like to look at the little things.
I seem to think that there were more Australians at Kensington.
And
that is what I saw.
It kind of upset me a little bit, right? Even though, all right, I say give the morning, the tourists are there, right? People got to walk on them things.
Yeah.
What happened to the afternoon? Right?
Yeah.
Come in and catch the afternoon. People need to understand how important this series is to not only the West Indies cricket team, but the West Indies as a whole. You understand? They need to understand that. The support is needed.
Could you imagine? Imagine it was 1999. Sorry. Right? I know going back to Kensington, Lara, Walsh batting, right? You imagine that cauldron and them Australians batting this morning in that cauldron. Australia probably been bowled out for 120. For 120. You could imagine running in with that crowd behind you at Kensington.
Look here. West
You
Indian
know, them
people
Australians would have been wrapped
understand.
up by tea time. By tea
Yeah,
time, he would have been
yeah.
battling.
Here's where I stand. If you're going to criticize, especially for the people who are at home, who are in the West Indies, whether you're in Jamaica or Grenada, Barbados, pick an island where we're going to be playing. If you are going to criticize the West Indies team, the least you can do is show up. You understand? The
Yeah.
least you can do is show up.
Yeah.
It's only right.
And I know the other thing with the schools too. I would love to see a lot. There were some school children
So
over there.
there was a
I would have
healthy,
loved to see
there was a healthy
yeah.
crowd of school kids there. I can say, and that
Right.
warmed my heart. Right?
Yeah.
That warmed my
Shamar going and sign autographs and
Yeah,
so on. That
yeah.
was really
Yeah, that was really
But you
nice.
see, the thing is, I imagine that exams are done.
Yeah.
School closes here on Friday. So, you know, let them go out and watch some cricket, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
imagine we might probably see a bigger crowd of Barbadians tomorrow at the ground. And if the game extends way into Friday, Saturday, you'll see more people. You know, I'm hoping that's the case. I would really love to see.
It will be interesting to see what happens tomorrow when because we're batting. So
Yeah.
I don't know how people might come out to give support to the captain.
Yeah.
That should mean something. You
That
know,
should
so
mean
we might see. You know, Chase might have a bus. Other people coming from I don't know where he lives in Barbados.
Because
He might have a bus coming out there to support it.
if you think about it, it's Roston Chase followed by Shea Hope, followed by Justin Greaves. You would think
Yeah.
that's incentive enough. You know, you want it both.
Right.
All three men are capable of batting pretty well. You would think they would want to see that, right?
Correct.
And well, Warrican is out already, so that's the
Well, he still got second innings.
he still got second innings. You know, he still got a bowl. He didn't get a bowl in this innings. But
I'll tell you something. Coming back to this Shamar and Jaden Seals situation, and I say situation in terms of the, you know, it's like in a way it's like Shamar was robbed of the FIFA in a sense, right? But here's what I think that does. I think we're going to see him come out with even more fire come Australia's second innings. And on top of that, Jaden Seals also has something to prove to say, hey, look, you know, don't worry with this chat about me taking out the tail or what have you. I can take out the Travis Heads of this batting lineup. So I think we will see some of that coming up because earlier this morning, I mean, Seals opened the bowling, but he wasn't as tight as Shamar in the early.
He didn't start well, right? He didn't start at all. And when I saw,
and of course, Shamar.
Go ahead.
Shamar's loosener his no ball. You know, he got one. I gotta just come to the point that you know what, he's gonna give us one. That's the loosener. Leave it alone. I'm coming to that point, so I'll leave it. But yeah, you were saying, sorry.
I think with the two of them, long may this partnership last. There's reasons why we're saying that. We ain't gonna go no further, right? Long may this partnership last.
Right.
You can see two fast bowlers who are genuine wicket takers, who threaten on a constant basis, right? And it's been
ask questions.
Yeah, ask questions every over, right? And I think in the second innings, you're being graced.
Yeah, man.
I think in the second innings, we will see a repeat, right? I don't think there's any letting up from the two of them. Shamar is hungry. Jaden is hungry.
I think that's a story. That's a story to watch.
Yeah, that's a story to watch. Both of them are real hungry.
Yeah.
You know, and I can't wait to see what they have to offer in the second innings, especially with the pitch is going to be a little bit more, you know, uneven. You know, it's still going to be offering them something. So it's going to be quite an interesting second innings, bowling wise for West Indies. But other than that, Chase, how you think Chase went today? Big picture, looking at it, his first outing as captain. How did you feel?
Well, it's interesting you ask that question because when we talk about the little things, the first thing which was in a sense a bad omen for me, and maybe that's why he dropped that catch, This man came out as the captain of the West Indies team. It's a brand new maroon cap, it seems. Is it the case? Is it the case that he threw away his test cap?
I hope not.
He didn't expect to come back at all in the test team.
I hope not.
So I'm looking at him, and his counterpart, with his baggy green, the front peeling and all of that.
I noticed the same thing too.
Yeah, and I'm like, So what? That's just silly things, silly.
Yeah, silly things.
Yeah, outside of that, I think he had well, if you want to put a grade at it, it's probably a B plus day, I would say.
That's not a bad one. Yeah, that's not a bad one.
I would say that especially I think that the one thing which it stands out for me in terms of something better could have been done is, like you said, that after lunch period, in terms of I think we let off the brakes, let off the accelerator at that point. But beyond that, his drop catch are fine, but the other drop catches, we can't blame him for that.
No, you can't blame him.
And then, well, I think we already spoke about Warrican, and one can make an argument there, but then that brings the question in. Well, every time we have certain people batting, are we just going to leave him out because we don't want him to face the left-handers or what have you? I don't know.
I don't think so.
What are your thoughts there?
I think today was just one of them days, right? I think it was a case of, you know what? These are the bowlers that's going to get me the wickets right now. This is what is going to do the job right now, right? And I think he went with that. But going forward, I think when the situation arises and based on how the game is going, Warrican is going to have his fair share of overs to bowl, right? That might happen in the second innings. He's going to have his fair share of overs to bowl.
As the pitch.
As the pitch deteriorates, I think Warrican might very well come into play, and things can be a little bit hairy when he's bowling. But I think it was a fair first outing for Austin Chase. I think it was a fair first outing. I was happy with his decision to take the review when Shamar trapped Constas, because you could see a little bit, there was like a little bit of doubt, and then they went, let's go with it. I
think the concern there was always height, right?
Yeah, the concern was height, right?
The concern there was always height.
Yeah, the concern there was height. And I'm happy that he took that chance, because I've seen West Indian captains in the past looked at a similar kind of incident and go, we'll pass on it. And then when the replays come, you see the ball crashing into the top of middle stump or the top of leg stump or whatever it might be, and then you see the captain go with that kind of expression. Can't afford them. Right? So I thought that was brave. I loved it. It put us on the front foot today. That was a good opportunity that they took. So we're coming down. We're winding down to the end. There's tomorrow, critical for a session. The first session will be critical.
Yeah.
If you were to give an average, where would you like to see us in terms of runs in the first session? Runs scored.
Yeah. I mean, look, a par score generally, as I recall it, is like about 70 runs a session. As like, so I would, so anywhere between 60, 70 runs, I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
Some might say I'm asking too much actually, right? But anywhere between then. I mean, because the thing is, we want our boys to be positive.
Yeah.
And I do see again, I do think King is going to continue that role. And so, for example, when you think about the type of fields that the Australians would set, behind the stumps, you have what? 3 slips and so on, 2 gullies. How often do you see 2 gullies, right? So in a way, even though we play in Test cricket and there are no restrictions in terms of the number of people, in certain positions, in some ways it approximates to what King contends with in playing white ball cricket, right? And so that allows him now, but the only thing is, of course, he's got to be a little more patient.
Yeah.
And when a bad ball comes, because he's a stroke player, he can drive. I think the first few runs he scored was like
his first
4 fours.
Yes, his first 16 runs were in boundaries. Yeah, were in boundaries.
Right. The first boundary had me clutching, thing. But these things happen, right?
Yeah.
But the other 3, play down to third man or what have you. Right, I think that's one of his favorite shots, right? That shot that goes down to the third, right? So I was happy to see that, and then of course the cover drive. So, anywhere between 60 and 70 for no wickets.
Yeah, we can't.
I know I'm pushing it.
I think it's a reasonable expectation, right? We are already 4 wickets down, so you're looking to solidify. That's 60, 70 runs. That's solidifying things. Right, and from there on, you're looking to push on, right, and take the lead because what's the score right now? 50 what?
57 for 4.
57. So
let me see.
You add another 70 runs. You're easily at 120 something, and you're 50 something runs short of taking the lead. So I think that's the two of them looking to bat through to lunch, solidify things, come back after lunch and push on, right? So there you give Shea Hope and Justin Greaves a foundation to work with.
So question for you before we wrap up. How as a batsman, like if you had to advise them, is it that you take it, I don't know, over by over? How do you pace yourself? What is it? How do you do it? I mean, coming up against the Australians and
you play over by over because
how do you pace yourself?
You play it over by over, right? You play it over by over. That's the best you can do. We can break it down to ball by ball, but we know that already, right? Play each ball on its merits. But you take it over by over, and you get together. You have that conversation where we at. And you constantly talk. You look.
I ask that because it's like when you're, let's say, doing your running. You say, all right, I'm going to try to get to that utility pole, and then I'll stop and I'll walk for a bit, and then I'll start again. That type of way. So it's like pacing yourself of sorts. So. It's within that context I ask yourself, like, what markers do they put, to help them? But over by over, I think is decent. And it allows them to now come have a conference.
Yeah.
Maybe decide on some things.
The most important thing that happened today, bowling Australia just after tea, it gives us the luxury of time. Right?
Yeah.
It gives us the luxury of time. So now you don't necessarily have to, it's not like a one-day game. You're thinking, we're going to have to speed it up here, right? Or a T20 game, right? You're more or less just looking at where you are. Okay, we're 50 runs from the lead. where 10 runs, keep your head down, play each ball on its merit, don't do nothing stupid, right? Just bat on. The simple conversations. Because the most important thing is batting time. And as much as people have bought into this crazy scoring now that people are trying to do in Test cricket, from where you stand right now, you essentially have 3 days to bat, right?
Yeah.
You essentially have 3 days to bat. Is it going to happen? More than likely not. But you should approach it in such a manner, right? And look to eat out most of those 3 days. And you have a healthy score, a healthy lead, and you could probably look to 2-1 the Australians. So that way you don't have to go back out there and bat, right?
That would be perfect, man.
Exactly. Don't have to go back out there and bat because it's going to be more difficult. Anyways, Top of Our Cricket Podcast fans, let us know. What are your thoughts on the first day's play? It was an interesting one. Shamar doing Shamar things. Jaden Seals doing Jaden Seals things. The batting left a bit to be desired. The catching left a bit to be desired. But all in all, it was
umpiring.
The umpiring. Yeah, I'm not going to forget that one.
Umpire.
Yeah, that was a clear catch. That was a clear catch. I don't know what else he needed to see. But let us know your thoughts. Like I said, it was the enthralling day. It was what Test cricket is about, right? It was what Test cricket is about. And you saw that today. So let's chop it up down in the comments. We will catch you guys later. Kefi here, Sam there. Top of Our Cricket Podcast. We out.
Until next time. Cool, man.